everyone. Welcome to First Listen Media. Today we have the band Oryad. How you guys doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good. So let's get started. Where did this project of yours begin?
Well, many moons ago, children. In 2017, I had a big break in my approach to my professional music career. I went to grad school for opera, and then I was trying to do a jazz thing in Denver. I had a couple of combos. We're playing around. I was doing some small operas, but it wasn't really fulfilling me. I kept feeling like I was pushing against a wall and singing all the arias that everyone else in my voice type was doing, and there was nothing behind it. And I was like, why am I not progressing? Oh, because I'm miserable. Doing the same auditions, the same songs, in the same way. And my husband actually turned me on to Night Witch around 2016, 2017. And I never heard anything like this before in my life. And it blew my mind because I had never heard a combination of classical vocals and orchestral lushness with guitars before. And I thought, oh, this is really cool. So I started delving into it. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, the things I like about classical music, the intensity, the loudness, the very fatalistic poetry is all very metal. When you think about it, we have these very like strong emotional intensity is a big part of metal, and a lot of ways to get out all sorts of emotions. And the more I delved, I really got into it, really got into it. And so I said, maybe this is a great path. You know, this is a great way for me to move forward with all the stuff that I do. I love singing, but I didn't like singing in the way I was currently doing it. And so this was a great opportunity for me to wrap those things together and also bring in piano skills and really start songwriting, which is something I'd never done before, other than maybe like a middle school project where I wrote a little piano piece for English class or something, because I was a nerd. So this lady in town that I work with, a small opera company, we do avant-garde stuff. Her partner actually went to school with all these guys. And we were at a party, it was like July 4th party. And he was like, you need to meet Luca. I was like, what do you mean? This is Luca. And she was like, they were both like, dude, you need to meet Luca because he's into the same stuff as you are, a really thoughtful guy. So I just like emailed him out of the blue and I told him about this idea. I had to do this project and he was like, sure. So he started coming over here and I have like old videos of us like working through songs, like talking about the poetry, doing stuff together and coming with cool riffs, coming up with way too many riffs. And yeah. They know. We get excited and we're like, we're gonna have 7 riffs in this song and it's gonna go all over the place. And so, you know, we're working on this project trying to get off the ground. And I had one of these last gigs I had doing this corporate party, like singing Eye of the Tiger and Edge of 17, Africa, stuff like that. And I met Adam. He was running sound that night and I was helping coil cables and stuff after the show. And we were talking, and I don't remember what it was. I said something about like bathing in the blood of virgins or
something weird
like that. Weird. Something super weird.
For like a corporate event function gig.
Like in a cocktail dress.
Yeah, this girl in a cocktail dress is like talking about some really dark stuff.
So we just started talking about like what we were into, and I happened to mention the project, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I know Luca."
I think we went to jazz school. We went to jazz school together. Matt and I all went to Metro together,
yeah, they went to Metro State here in Denver studying, it's technically called
Jazz and American Improvised Music.
American Improvised Music.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, exactly. So they all knew each other and said, yeah, let's do something. And so we brought Adam in that way. And we did some shows. We worked with another drummer in town, this really great guy named Kyle. He came from like the pop punk world, and we did some shows. We worked out the songs, you know, people were really into it, but then I decided I really wanted to focus on some recorded material and like hone in on the songs. They're kind of all over the place. So Matt joined us, and I met Matt singing in a folk country band. Yeah, so we were doing some really cool stuff with a singer-songwriter in town that we knew. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did her stuff, and it was, what would you call it, Matt? Kind of like Joni Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she definitely had that very like rich, like Joni Mitchell timbre to her voice. You know, and like kind of like elements of just like kind of like that amplified folk sound and stuff like that. And Kristen was actually singing in the band as part of 2 and 3 part harmonies, like supporting Hallie as kind of like the lead stage presence. And yeah, and I was in that band playing drums too. So
yeah, it was cool. And her music was really, really great. And I liked playing with Matt. And so I said, hey, you know, we're kind of changing directions with the band. We want to change the sound of it, you know, we want to go more in this direction. So technically, I guess more proggy, if we're going to be honest. So Matt came on board, and we spent a long time actually kind of going through rewriting parts of songs, really thinking about them thoughtfully. And then that's kind of where we are now. We started recording everything right before the pandemic hit. So when the pandemic hit, I was basically just sitting on a bunch of files. And so that's why I said, you know, it kind of kicked me in the butt. And I said, well, if we can't actually meet, we can't really rehearse via Zoom because we tried and it sucks.
Yeah.
It's awful. Like, let me package this music and get it out as an EP because we can't see each other, you know. And so it's been this very long journey for me to get to here, to meet all these guys who are so great. And it's been a very great process of having a seed of something and saying, here it is, and like really just reworking it with everyone's really varied musical experience, because we've done, I don't know how many genres between the 4 of us in our lives.
So yeah,
that's fucking awesome.
Sorry, that was bleh.
No, I like that. It's great. Still, dark shit like that. That's interesting. No, because that's the kind of shit I'm into. Like, I'm into like a lot of like dark shit. So I love hearing stuff like this.
Yeah, it's always surprises people because I've had to do a lot of donor events for operas and corporate events, and I'm like, yeah, did you see that murder show where the guy like, you want to see my skull collection?
It's like a little refreshing actually, because there's a lot of like the really polished pop thing that really does work. And so to have you like walk in and crush that material, but then also be like very into your thing is really refreshing. It's like, oh, you're your own person. That's really wonderful.
well, and I also like, I kind of want to chime in and just say like something that I think that's really interesting about this group, the 4 of us, is like looking at us like, you know, surface level perceptions. I really kind of feel like Kristen is the only one who really like looks the part, you know, and which, you know, like it benefits.
I'll interrupt you really quickly. I'm Moira here.
Yeah. Moira is the only one who really looks the part, you know, and it benefits her job as like the front woman, you know, and like the 3 of us, the instrumentalists, you know, we all kind of like have our lesser kind of like metal personas. I mean, like if you looked at the 3 of us individually, I'm not sure, you know, like I'm not sure that you would presuppose that any of us are necessarily metal musicians, you know, but we all have like the interest in the genre, you know, and like I think it also kind of speaks to just having like the interest in like the underlying darkness of the world around us too, to be able to like participate in this project and like contribute in a creative way. We, you know, look like, I don't know, just not metal musicians. I don't know how to put that into a better term, but like, you know, like
I get you. All right.
Look at Gojira. If you saw Gojira on the street, you would not think they're crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Ronnie. We love them though.
Yeah.
All right. My next question is, where did the band name come from?
Let me tell you another story.
Ooh, I'm excited already.
This is just, it's a misspelling of Oryad with an E instead of a Y. And in Greek mythology, the Oryad are mountain nymphs that follow the goddess Diana. And so when I started this project, a lot of the focus and a lot of the poetic focus came from being in the woods, going on hikes, being on some like outcrop, writing the lyrics, having that connection to nature, and being really interested in mythology as well. And I thought it was a nice tie-in because both Diana is often used as a symbol of female empowerment, but also the fact that she's, you know, hunting for the stag, the horned god. There's a lot of different mythologies around the world about the power and also virility behind a stag, a horned god figure. And so I thought it was a nice encapsulation of both of those energies. And the reason it's a Y is because workshopping, and I realized that with an E, people might read it as Oryad and think it was like an Irish folk band. So, so I changed it to Y, and it's still a little confusing, but it makes it unique. And I actually had someone on Instagram DM me, and she said, girl, I see you with the mythology. Like, she knew what the Oryad, you know, were. Kidding. So yeah, it was really neat. Wow. Yeah.
One of my favorite, and I want this to be on public record, when we're thinking of a band name at first, Dorcas was one of them.
Was it? What?
I don't remember where that was from, but I'm like, I think you might think it's Dorcas.
Dorcas.
So we shouldn't have that band name. It's still a running joke in my family. We still talk about that all the time. Gosh, you know, so imagine funny. Being on stage like, you know, what's your name, Dorcas? It's Dorcas. I want that to be on record right now.
There's no winning there. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So
Oryad's
Oryad. Were there other names?
There probably were, but I don't think any that we took too seriously. I don't remember much. Dorcas was the one that I remember. That was really funny.
So you're a mountain oak now.
What does that mean? It means it still apply to play Irish folk festivals.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah, just read.
So yeah, Oryad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm loving this. This is great. Let's see. How does your music come together? Like, what's your songwriting process like?
It's chaos.
Controlled chaos. Really.
When the four of us are together, it's chaotic, but
it's, yeah, I appreciate that so much when we have group writing sessions, because he's always like, okay, back to the top of this section, we need to work on this again. Because we're like, oh, what if we did this and put it on E flat? And he's like, let's practice with the metronome.
There's a thing to be said about you know, for music majors, and I think we're slowly starting to learn, like, you know, less is more sometimes. But that's a lesson that we're still trying to learn. And I think, you know, a lot of us are into like some proggy stuff, like Periphery or Dream Theater stuff. So we're
Summer
like,
Darling.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah, so we're like, we got to do this thing in 7/8 and stuff like that. And sometimes it's like, you know, 30 minutes later, we'll all be breaking in a cold sweat. Like, this is really difficult, but sometimes it feels cool as well. Sometimes we look back and we're like, that didn't sound very good.
But it's, yeah.
So it's chaos, but I think it usually kind of consists of Kristen comes up with some sort of harmony. Mm-hmm. I don't know what her name is, apparently. Moira comes up with some sort of harmony, and or poetry or words of some kind. Luca usually has some sort of riff that they've sort of colluded into existence. Mm-hmm. And then Matt and I sort of come behind it, and it's like, so how do we sort of build a structure, or how do we complement what they've already done?
And tweak it. I mean, you guys seriously do so much to improve the original idea, and that's the point of it. Like, seriously, because you're more harmonically advanced than I am.
Same here.
And so I come up, so we do it kind of opposite. Poetry is first, always. Poetry, then melody, then a bass harmonization, then like a vibe from the riff. And then Matt and Adam are like, okay, no, it needs to have this energy, or we need to have this sort of rhythm underneath it, or you need to change you need to reharm this, you know, you're just going between 1-5, you need to change that sort of thing. And so it's a great stair step process, but I get really excited and work on a bunch of different songs all at the same time. And so that's why it's important that we, you know, work together, especially Matt. Seriously, you were my taskmaster in rehearsal to get me on it, which is great. And God, you're always coming with like the coolest shit in terms of the rhythm to go underneath it, because I don't have the language. You know, I always say like you do, or the doom, but you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, and like, you do give me a lot of credit, and you know, I'm not sure how much of that I really deserve, but the truth is, like, Kristen writes things from a very compositional point of view. And that's kind of like where her classical voice chops kind of come into play. That's where, like, you know, her education as a classically trained musician comes into play, because the three of us, me and Adam and Luca, we are not classically trained, we have kind of like the background in Western music theory and all of that stuff, but we hadn't really done a lot of work, writing. Kristen's doing all of this work for like arranging our existing material for like orchestra and stuff like that. And she comes from this like very classical repertoire where it's like what she's writing is very informed by the history of like these Western classical musicians, which is really great because it gives you that really that dense seed of stuff to pull from and extrapolate into like this quartet metal music setting, and that's really like the heart of how we write things, to kind of echo what Adam said. Is she comes up with this initial nugget where it's like, she has this poem that she's tied into this melodic line or this other kind of idea, and then the three of us as guitar, bass, and drums find ways to alter or like complement, extrapolate.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm just wrapping up, but like that's basically like the nuts and bolts of it. And then, like we're all a bunch of nerds and we tend to just really get I guess overexcited and just like distracted by some of the stuff that we write. And that's where the chaos kind of comes from, is like sometimes we just figure out that like we've been working on an idea and we've written ourselves into a hole and need to find a way to get out of it. And it's challenging and it's frustrating, and most importantly, it's really fun to just kind of like have something at the end of the whole process that you're just really proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, not to like shrink anything we've said, it's sort of a distillation process.
Mhm.
Like we sort of throw everything at the wall and it kind of becomes chaotic, and then like Luca sort of touched on and like Matt kind of just said, we sort of then trim it down, and that's sort of what we've sort of come to so far, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a weird process, but it's a 3-step business plan that is Oryad.
Yeah.
Hey, as long as it works, right?
Yeah,
That's the way I see
exactly.
it.
Yeah. And what's been really great, we're writing a bunch of new material right now, and it's kind of taken a step beyond what we did with this whole first set of songs, which has been really great because, again, a lot of the back end arranging and producing of the pieces we had already done in some live shows during the pandemic. I was working with our producer and I was like, oh, I changed the intro or I cut things up, and so it was very remote, and I would have to email stuff back and forth to everyone because we were shut down. So all through March, April, May, June, we were doing via email. And so it was really great when we could actually be in a room together again and do this writing process, because it was really hard to say and like, oh, here's my phone recording of this idea I had, or I wrote down the idea. It's been really hard. And so it's been really great to get back into our controlled chaos. And yeah, everything is kind of going up to the next level. We've been even more thoughtful with these pieces. I started taking orchestration lessons. And so we're adding in like full, orchestra to a lot of pieces, different arrangements, we're looking like, I want a horn quintet here. I want to, so it's a lot more being built into it.
Right. Well, speaking of old music, how was the song Immersion made? What was the lyrical process behind that one?
It's funny, because we watched a couple of your interviews and we were like, he always picks a song. We're like, which one do you think he'll pick? So I was like, we did not think you picked this one.
Yeah.
I predicted other things. I love this one.
What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite? I don't have a favorite.
No wrong answers.
Long answers or wrong answers?
No wrong answers.
No wrong answers.
No, I thought about it.
Yeah.
Immersion's pretty good. I like the Rossini one a lot too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a favorite. Neutral.
Okay.
I think Immersion handled the underwater too.
But yeah, we can talk through Matt's favorite too, out of the essence of like equality, but at the same time, answer this question.
Immersion,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
What was the question again?
What's Matt's favorite? Hold on.
Yeah. What's my favorite?
Okay, so I'm going to keep this short. My favorite is Hymn of the End. But anyway, how did you come up with the lyrical concept for Immersion? Was the question, right?
Yes. So a lot of the lyrics I have are based on either esoteric metaphysical ideas about the universe, or using mythology to talk about personal issues of grief and loss. That's a really big thing I tend to write about a lot, because I've experienced a lot of grief and loss in the last 5 years that is still very fresh to me. And so I have written a lot of this poetry to kind of get through those feelings. And immersion in particular is kind of like this idea of drowning and wanting to drown, seeing some sort of release in going into just complete blackness, no breath, no light, nothing. And I can't swim. So I think that also informs the reason why I chose drowning as the metaphor, because I probably would drown if someone tried to throw me into a lake, just FYI.
I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm sorry.
So yeah, the poetry was a poem I wrote, I believe, I might have written it before a therapy session, actually. I wrote a lot of them either in the woods or before a therapy session. And so it was definitely very much about this grief of losing someone and the memories being so hurtful that you just wanted to like stop breathing, you know, and be underwater. And so as I looked at the words and a lot of the repetition of the phrases, I started thinking about these like turns of phrase. And so I came up with this melody that has a lot of influence by like Middle Eastern modal chant lines. And so that's when we took it and we looked at the guitar part. He was writing all these clean, like cool, clean modal lines. And so it kind of started going that direction. We said, this is going to be a modal journey is what it is. And if it's got this swoopy feel to it, it feels, it's watery. It's definitely watery. And, you know, especially with like having the piano solo in it, this like that sort of feel to it.
Right before therapy, huh? I know that feeling. No,
Yeah.
I just recently started doing my own songwriting, and my most morbid piece was written right before a therapy session.
And that's important, you know, and she's always encouraging me. It's like, write this out. You're a thoughtful person. You write a lot, write it out. And it up that it was either then or the calmness of being in the woods. I was actually, you know, able to kind of put these things to words.
Yeah. For me, I just had a legit mental breakdown right before my session. I just wrote everything that was in my mind.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Back to when I used to be like really suicidal. That's where my mind just went for who knows what reason. I just wrote everything that was in my head.
Yeah. And that kind of gave you some clarity.
Oh, a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
You playing a band? You playing a band?
I want to make one so badly. I'm trying to get a guitar and just start.
Right.
But right now I'm just writing lyrics.
That's
Very
the
cool.
first step.
I was curious. That's
You
cool.
have to have
That's
a
really
first
cool.
step. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. My next question is, what is the best piece of advice you could give to fellow musicians?
Put it out. Make the thing and then release it. There is no perfection. There is no making it. Like, start creating. Make the thing, make more of the thing, whatever your thing is. And then, so step one, release it or do it or book the show. Like almost like look or leap and the net will appear. But then two is actually like Frank Zappa-ism, and it's keep going. There's not an end point. There's not a finish line. You keep going. They're kind of together. Sorry.
No, that's great. I was actually wanting you to go first, so that's perfect.
There you go.
Hey, the finish line is death. That's the finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's some of the best advice I've gotten. He has said that to me so many times.
I love it. It's really good advice.
Yeah. Because I get mired in perfection. You know, operas, you spend 3 months preparing for something that's played once. And it's every single nitpicky little thing that you're looking at in view of trying to create this perfection. He's like, no, you just gotta put this shit out, you know, which has been really useful. And it's liberating. I think the biggest thing that I have to think about this. What's your piece of advice?
So I want to tell you first what the best piece of advice I ever got was, and then I'll tell you what I think my piece of advice is. And this is actually a recent revelation of mine. So the best piece of advice I ever got was from my first guitar teacher. Her name was Nessa Marquez. And I was 16 or maybe 17. Baby, it's time to think. And I want to say I was in those lessons to get ready for college because I wanted to go for music, and I was looking at DU because one of my favorite guitar players went there. So I went to her and I was like, I'm gonna go to DU. She looks at me and goes, how are you gonna pay that debt? And I'm like, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna take out a loan. She goes, you're stupid, don't do that. And at first I went home like all angry at her, but I thought about it later and I'm like, no, I'm gonna take your advice. And I look back now, and Nessa, if you're watching this, I doubt you are, but if you are, I like you saved me from so much misery, and I can't thank that enough. Like I look back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I took her up on that. But my piece of advice is cut all your friendships, just play music. No, I was kidding. No, I think
Wow.
I think it's helpful and healthy to have a balance in life, even if you're a musician. I think this is kind of a recent thing for me, because I used to think I had to, not that I ever did this, but I was telling Moira this when we were having dinner one day. How I thought I had to practice like 8 hours a day to be good and worth something, but I kind of, some recent things, like going back to my faith and stuff like that, kind of made me realize, like, my worth isn't found in that. Now it's important to practice, but have room for other things in life. So allow yourself to go on that date or go see that movie, or have friends. You don't just have to, be cooped up in your bedroom for 10 hours just practicing scales. I think that's what I had to be, but I think it's good to have a balance and have room for other parts of life. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Well, conversely, the advice that I always get is do shut everyone out from your life and practice 8 hours a day and obsess over it. And if you're not doing it like Charlie Parker did, then you're doing it wrong.
You're gonna get out of all the new kids at the jazz jam.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're not keeping up with the jazz jams, then you're not doing it right. No, I mean, so like I'm very much a cynic at heart, and that's like that's part of my cynicism coming out. But to be truthful and to be honest, the good advice that I've gotten, it kind of like the best advice that I've gotten, it's twofold. One of them is more of a concept, and this goes back to many years ago when I had a run-in with life and wound up in therapy. And just kind of like one thing that I took away from being in therapy for a really brief period of time was just like struggling with creating art, and this abstract concept of like, I was really struggling with coming up with something that I was proud of and being afraid to put it out into the world, which kind of touches on what Adam was talking about earlier. And so it was less of like a phrase and more of an exercise where basically you just sit down and you do the thing. So like in this therapy session, it was just, put a marker in your hand and then just put something on paper. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is that you're doing it. And that kind of is a lesson that I think that all people who are creatives, visual art or music or whatever else, if you're a creative person, that's something that you really need to carry with you, is just like, do the thing. That's what it distills down to, in just like a tiny little piece. And then the other thing that I always try to carry with me and come back to, especially when I'm feeling really terrible about myself, as like a performer or an artist, is just something that a drum teacher of mine said, which is just to be kind to yourself. Offer yourself grace, offer yourself the opportunity to just like accept your shortcomings and just be kind to yourself. And there are things that all of us struggle with. There are things that we all wish that we were better at, or more high achieving at, or whatever else you want to call it. But the point is not that you failed. It's like, did you work to get better at the thing? Did you work to like try to accomplish something? And if you failed, be kind to yourself. If you made a mistake, be kind to yourself. And it just kind of all comes back to giving yourself grace to just like pick yourself up and try again.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that was so inspirational, Matt. Yeah. And I've had a lot of those things actually echoed to me recently, by my therapist and by my voice teacher, the be kind to yourself. I guess I have actionable advice, because that's something I've been trying to latch onto a lot recently, because I tend to live in the clouds a lot of the time. Are 2 ways to break down a practice session so that you don't feel like it's work that's not connected to what you're outputting is my piano teacher in college was very much into mindfulness, and I wish I had listened to her more back then. And because right now I know she took a sabbatical, she did some research, she's planning on writing a book about it, about being incorporating concepts of mindfulness practice into your art, and it has helped me exponentially. So anytime I get ready to have a practice session, I literally, okay, so I get on the floor. I'm not gonna demonstrate it right now, but I get on the floor and I have a pillow behind my head and I have my legs up in a like an L against the chair so that I can feel my heels on the bottom, and it makes your back flatten out straight, because we're taught to stand up really straight all the time. So you're like this, but you're actually, your spine is straight, and taking moments to actually breathe. And I think this is good, not even just for vocalists, for like instrumentalists of any time. You breathe in and you feel everything expand, and then you breathe out and you keep feeling how far you can expand on that out breath, and you'll feel your ribs move. And in those moments, think about, what am I grateful for today? Like, think of one thing, and then also think, okay, what are the 3 actionable points I can do in this practice session today to feel a little bit better about my craft, instead of thinking, I have to do all this stuff and I'm a failure, which is how I used to approach it. And so these actionable, the mindfulness has really, really helped in a very concrete way to frame the practice. And then I warm up a little bit on the floor like that, and then I stand up and I do the rest of it, and I have my notebook and I work on those actionable things and I take notes. And that has gotten me so much farther than the old way that I used to have notebooks and paper flying everywhere, and I have to do this and the songs aren't done and blah 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 blah, you know. And again, it felt silly at first, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, what am I doing while I'm on the floor? But yeah, that simple like breathing, what am I grateful for? And I think the gratefulness piece is talked a lot about in circles of people who study mindfulness, because it causes you to be in a mindset to be kind to yourself.
Right. I like that. Again, like, I know I say that a lot, but it's like genuine. I love that advice.
Yeah.
All right, I have 2 questions left, and we got 6 minutes on the clock. Let's do this.
You
All right.
can do it.
The second to last question is, what is next for Oryad?
World domination, baby.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Just kidding.
Day drinking.
Everybody says that.
Baked apples, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. World domination, you got my vote.
Join us, Zach.
I think. I mean, you're kind of the leader.
Yeah.
So you should go first.
Okay,
You
well, there's a whole tiered series of goals. The main one is right now we're working on new material for a new recording. Super excited about all of these songs. Don't really have a timeline because I've learned not to have timelines, because life happens, creativity happens. So that's a big thing. We have some little animated videos and lyric videos coming out for the rest of the pieces of the EP as kind of a celebration this year. I'm really excited. The next one coming out is an animation, like an animated story to go along with Black is a Color. So it's kind of this Irish, sad Irish story around it, but all these little pieces to kind of work on our online engagement. Because what you've found is that we've had a really strong, very small, but very, very active online base of people who like DM me, who like buy the merch, all this stuff, share stuff in groups on social media. So I'm working really hard on getting content to push out to give them more of that. And then when the new year comes, hopefully I have my braces off and maybe do some more in-home videos here, just fine. And then on top of that, looking at getting into some live shows. We have only done one show as this configuration because of COVID. So hopefully this fall, I am going out of the country for an opera here in a few weeks. And then when I get back in the country, hopefully we can start booking some small things and say, we're here, by the way, working on more of a local presence, but also still nurturing a lot of wonderful people we've met all over the world who talk to us online, listening to the music. Just continue to push that presence with these songs, with the new material is the goal, is the trajectory we're going on right now.
I wish you all the best of luck, and I cannot wait to see how things go from here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My final question of the night, daytime. My favorite question. Do you have any questions for me?
What's your favorite band of all time? I'm actually kind of curious, believe it or not.
Currents.
What do they do? Are they
Metalcore.
Oh, so are you into that kind of world? I had no idea.
Yeah, their music is what got me on this journey, actually.
Oh,
Their
okay.
music stopped me from killing myself, and I wanted to give back to music, so I started this up.
That's great.
Cool. Ever seen
Yeah.
them live?
I want to so badly. I'm trying to as well, but with COVID, it's been a bit difficult.
Yeah.
It sucks too because they're from Connecticut, so it's like, come on.
Yeah.
I have to listen. I've never listened. I know of them. I've heard them for sure. Like
You listen to
I,
every-
The song "Shattered" is my personal favorite by them. That's the one that actually woke me up and stopped me from slicing my throat open.
I'll listen to it on the way home. I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That song just it drew me in and woke me the hell up, and now I'm recovered and I do this.
Hallelujah. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love checking out. I'm always checking out new stuff, so that'll be good to listen to. Especially knowing that it's so important. Someone has
Definitely.
found something.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I want to work with them so bad someday, and I'm trying to as well. Like I work with groups who know them personally, like Savage Hands. I got to work with them a while back, but I'm really hoping to work with Current someday.
Cool.
Sweet.
That's
Well,
like one of my biggest goals.
yeah,
Good luck.
send out that good movie. Yeah.
Do you
Any other
like?
questions? Sorry,
Go ahead.
I was asking like any other questions.
I was asking the metalcore question, but I don't know how I get.
Go for it.
Hey, Matt,
What's your
are you-
question, bro? Yeah.
I'm just trying to think because I mean, I don't know. I've seen a couple interviews from like I never kind of got the idea of what music you like. So it's metalcore. That's interesting. What other bands in that genre do you like? I'm just curious.
There's
I know it's
a
kind of-
lot I could go
kind of
over.
Your hopes and dreams, but
There's a lot. Like I said, Savage Hands is really, really good. I also love like Arrival of Autumn, who I got to work with actually. They're my first video interview. I was so bad when I first started this. Like I'm just like, oh shit, I cut you off. I'm so sorry. But I've gotten a lot better.
somewhere?
I'll have to watch. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was terrible. I'm like, after the video, fuck.
Hey,
Pete, you're like, come on.
I heard a recording of the first song we did live, and I was just
Oh
like, oh my
gosh, oh
gosh,
so bad.
you got to start somewhere.
Hey,
That's what it is.
One band told me your first thing's always gonna sound like crap, but you always can go up from there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, just
Right.
start. Just start.
Exactly. It's Adam's advice. You know?
Also, Atena is really good too. I love Atena. But we have less than 1 minute, so I really should wrap this up.
All right.
For hours. We could talk to you for hours.
Yeah, well, another session. I was
Wow.
hoping to come back.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
This was
for
wonderful. Thank
inviting
you.
us to do
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being here. This has been another episode of First Listen Media, and today our guests were Oryad. You all have a great day.
You do
You
the
too.
same, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.